We're having fun, we're having fun. Party like it's your last, party like it's your last night. We're having fun, we're having fun. Party like it's your last night.
The JCC is 100 years old because the initial purpose it was created to achieve, namely be open to all members of the Jewish community, is still its purpose. Eddie Rosenblum was part of the organizing group.
He wanted opportunities to meet other young Jewish people in the Washington area.
They wanted to create an organization that was ideologically Jewish, but not more than that, so there would be no barrier toward membership.
They decided to form a YMHA.
In 1912 was the first formal meeting of the group. It was a meeting held at Addis, Israel. It was all the rabbis, all the congressmen, the leaders of all the existing Jewish organizations.
And in 1913, they incorporated it.
They elected their first officers and agreed to apply for a charter from what was then called Jewish Welfare Board, because the original JCCs in many communities were settlement houses for immigrants.
Between 1913 and 1923, the Ys had about 5 locations when they merged and became the JCC of Washington, D.C., and then built a building in 1923, which was our first building that we owned as opposed to rented.
When I was a teenager, I was a member there. That was when it was on 16th Street. I joined a basketball team that used to play at the JCC on Sundays, and we actually won the championship.
The center was serving not only Montgomery County, but Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia.
JCC was the social place for Jews to go. When there was a dance Sunday afternoon at the JCC, you showed up.
My dad saw my mom in between 2 other women, and he said, I want to meet that girl, and he did, and then they got married.
By the 60s, a lot of the community had moved to Bethesda, Silver Spring.
This was a time of a lot of turbulence in the city, and rioting, and there simply was a demographic problem, and it closed.
Charlie Smith had this concept of moving the JCC from downtown.
And he had this vision of a campus for the major Jewish institutions. There was some opinion that we should not move, that this was a little more revolutionary than evolutionary, for which reason there was a lot of dialogue.
After a lot of cajoling, he was able to get the JCC, the Hebrew Home, and the Jewish Social Service Agency to agree to move to Rockville. And in 1969, all 3 organizations moved and the campus opened, and that's when the JCC opened.
There was so much excitement that we were having a new building on a big campus in Rockville. There was a rumor that you couldn't get in because there was a waiting list.
We were all, I think, very excited about the whole idea of having this Jewish campus in the midst of the suburbs.
This was the state of the art at the time, and we were all excited about that.
I was 9 years old. I came into the building, fresh paint, everything's brand new, and the building went on and on forever and ever. All of a sudden you come down a corridor and there's a pool inside the building. Now, I'm a boy from Wheaton. For me, that was pretty cool. And that was before they built the outdoor pool, actually. So I imagine if they had an indoor pool and an outdoor pool, it might have been too much for this 9-year-old.
I've been coming to the JCC now for between 30 and 40 years.
My husband and I both use the fitness center, and my kids both take karate here, so we're here pretty much 6 days a week.
I've been coming to the JCC for 40 years.
I love the coming in and feeling the exact same comfort that I did when I was a teenager. It smells the same in a good way.
The professional staff here does an outstanding job making it happen. Without them, and without the volunteers that we get from all around the area, and dedicated board members that I have the privilege of working with, you got a building, a nice building. So what? Without the people, it's just a lot of echo space.
This is more than just a job. The people that I work very closely with are my best friends.
I stayed at the JCC for 30 years in one day. And the most important why I stayed here are the people who work here. Highly professional people, devoted to the center.
I choose to volunteer because it's helpful. I think it's helpful to the community, and it's my way of giving back.
What I so enjoyed about the fitness center experience here is the intergenerational aspect to it. To be able to go into a locker room and hear stories from guys who were in World War II, talking about their experiences, as well as people who are younger than I am and in my age demographic, that whole intergenerational aspect is really what is unique and valuable.
If you go to another gym or facility, what have you, people don't know who the people are, they don't talk. Here everyone talks, everyone knows. Something happens in your family, people here are the first one to give you a shoulder to cry on or give you support. People really truly care when you come through those doors. And it's not face value, they really do care.
Thank you. Now what kind do you want, sweetie? Plain?
It is, yes. Did you play the lottery this year?
I want Jordan to walk through preschool every day and see older people and see younger people and families and babies and people coming to exercise and realize that he's part of a really special kind of community that cares for each other throughout every life stage. I love that he's going to grow up with a sense that not everyone is like him.
When I first started working here in camp, it was progressive that we even had a program for kids with special needs at all. Now we have a camp where kids with any type of disability are included. Our greeter, who sits in the lobby, was a camper here when he was 6 years old and has evolved through the program and left to do other things and came back and now is working here, which is exactly the same path that typical campers and people would take. Jay working here is opening up new doors and new ideas for other ways that people with disabilities can be involved in our center.
I think in this new 21st century era, JCCs are even more important. The JCCs are neutral ground for the explosion in intermarried couples.
My grandson comes to camp here.
That now is such a vital part of our community.
If you're religious or you're not religious, it's what we call the low barrier entry point to the Jewish community.
Growing up unaffiliated, I never had a bar mitzvah. So I was a little bit uncomfortable about what it would be like to come into a Jewish organization. And yet, once I got here, I realized it wasn't uncomfortable because that's what JCCs do. They welcome everybody.
If you want to feel like home, you need to find common ground with your people. And that's where I found the JCC is kind of a home away from home.
The center has become much more entrepreneurial and more market-tuned than it was in the old days, where we sort of just expected people would come because we were the JCC and we were the center of Jewish life.
Program fees and membership dues are not going to be alone enough to support the center.
When we're talking to people about the importance of supporting the JCC financially, we talk about the fact that maybe 1 million people pass through these doors in a year. and youth center, and it's everybody in the community, from the youngest to the most senior.
We had a senior nutrition and socialization program, probably 150 seniors sitting around round tables. One elderly gentleman said, "I just want you to know, Mr. Stern, I would not be alive today if it was not for this program." And to me, that was the reason why we do all of this stuff. So it was just an unbelievable moment.
Ultimately, what's important is that the JCC is here for everyone. Not everyone can afford what we have to offer, but we want everyone to be able to participate. And so we fundraise really to make sure that we are inclusive and accessible for the entire community.
It's important to me, and I think to the whole community, that this JCC stays vibrant and alive and there for the next 100 years.
Happy anniversary, JCC.
No, what? You have to say go. I have to say go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Happy anniversary. Okay. But don't you have to like reset it?
Happy birthday, JCC.
Happy birthday, JCC. Happy birthday, JCC. 100th birthday, JCC.
A happy 100th birthday, JCC. Keep on going.
Happy birthday, JCC.
Happy birthday, JCC.
Happy birthday.